Welcome to Uncanny X-Minutes, where we bring you the comics behind the movies. I'm Stasha.
Producer James.
And we're here to talk about minutes 70 through 80 for X-Men 3, The Last Stand, which I guess isn't called X-Men 3, but I'm going to do that every time anyway.
I like it. The next one we could do X-Men 4 if we want.
Honestly, I might. We'll see.
X-Men. We might have to say X-Men 4 Origins Wolverine. How about that?
Oh, God. No, I feel like the ones that are only Wolverine don't count as X-Men movies.
All right, how about X-Men 4 First Class?
That I could get on board with.
You can get on board with that one. Okay.
I might remember to do that. Well, let's talk about this movie, though.
Oh, now X-Men 3 The Last Stand. What happens in these minutes, you say? That you didn't say, but you said? We have the X-Men suit up and join the fight with the children in tow.
Yeah, that's...
Very X-Men.
Very X-Men. Child soldiers, go on.
Magneto moves the Golden Gate Bridge, and then we get a big old fight scene.
Yeah, that tracks for these movies. Last third. Yeah, that's what we're doing.
Well, but I mean, that's in any big overarching storyline, any big event book, that is the last issue.
Yeah,
it's fight.
And then like sad resolution.
Oh,
or happy resolution,
died.
Depending on what's going on. But let's be
X-Men.
real. Yeah,
it's a sad resolution. Bittersweet, maybe sometimes.
Sometimes, but yes, always the bitter. Always somebody had to die.
It's very bitter.
That's true.
With a little bit of sweet.
I know we didn't talk about. We were going to talk about this, but something came to mind as we were describing what happened. Magneto moving the Golden Gate Bridge is so freaking cool.
It's so cool.
It's like one of the coolest things. It's the most Magneto thing that the movies have done so far. I would argue that one of the later movies does something very similar with like his scope.
Because you gotta go bigger.
Yeah, 100%. But
at the time,
yes, when this movie came out, him moving the Golden Gate Bridge, that is like the one thing I remember when I was like in the theater that I came out and I was like, that was amazing. Like, because it's such a cool Magneto moment, and like it's just so Magneto. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
The fact that you are this like human pinnacle of engineering, right? The Golden Gate Bridge is kind of a symbol, honestly, of like kind of human technology and like working together and building this thing. And Magneto's like, nah, and then I'm gonna pick it up. Like, you are all so beneath me, just like metaphorically.
Even need to do that.
No, but he did.
He could have brought a boat over. He could have just picked up some metal and it's like, everyone stand on some metal. Let's go on metal. No.
Magneto needs to make a point. Yes. And
power flex.
Honestly, I give major kudos to the movie. I don't even know. Honestly, I don't even know if they were sitting in that writer's room and they were like, you know what? I think this really works for his character. It like makes sense. Let's talk about the metaphor of like taking a feat of human engineering and manipulating it as like a homo superior or whatever. I don't know if they did that, and honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if they didn't.
He later sacrifices the mutantness of his soldiers.
Yes.
So that he can see what they're going to do. That's not Magneto.
That bothers me.
In this 10 minutes is when he's trying to take away the guns and they're all plastic and he can't move. He goes, oh, they're learning. He still doesn't do anything. There's so much metal around him.
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense. Like I am not here to talk about the plot holes of this movie, really, because we would be here literally all night.
I'm just saying,
but yes,
I don't think they were thinking about that when they moved the bridge.
You know what? That's a very good point. They were not thinking about it, but they stumbled onto something very cool that was very emblematic of the character, and then immediately threw it away in the next 2 minutes. But up until that point, it was very cool, very awesome.
Right. Well, I realized while doing a lot of research, because like today I want to kind of hit a couple of characters that show up in these 10 minutes, that what makes the X-Men books interesting for me is that you get to spend time with random mutants that aren't the main ones.
Yeah.
You know, like the ones that are on all the t-shirts, and then they're fun. Their drama's great. But then when you get to spend some time, like last week, we're talking about Marrow. No one knows about Marrow, but people who read the comics, because she's not really in much. But she's very interesting because they can highlight these characters like here and there. And I think that's what some of these movies are missing, is that like you can't highlight any characters because it just feels like there's no time.
Right. You have to spend 10 minutes wasted on a fight scene.
Which is fine.
I know.
I'm fine with a 10-minute fight scene. But like Colossus is a nobody in these movies.
Which is bizarre, right?
Yeah.
Like conceptually, that is crazy. He's not an original 5.
I mean, he's the new
the closest to.
He's the giant size roster.
Yeah, he's Storm.
Nightcrawler's is only in one movie out of that.
Nightcrawler, let's be clear. I would say Nightcrawler is not only disrespected in the movies, he's also disrespected in the comics for a very long time.
Yeah, this is true.
He was exiled. And
literally exiled.
I love Excalibur, but like he was exiled to Excalibur. Let's be like real, honestly.
They put him on the B book.
Right, they did for Wolverine. I think I can't remember exactly who, but I'm pretty sure it was Wolverine. This is part of the reason I didn't like Wolverine for a really long time. It's just
you were just salty at him.
100%. I hold a grudge.
It's okay. So we were saying like the plastic guns full of all the not antidote. Oh, geez, I almost said antidote. It's not an antidote. It's the cure. Quote. I'm going to say that in quotes. The cure.
Right.
Just strips everyone of their mutant powers. We get a couple of quick characters, and then Arclight, called out by name impressively,
yes,
smashes them all. So I want to start with one small thing. And that is the one mutant who's hanging from underneath like one of the guard towers gets hit by one of them and falls. And I'm pretty sure it's supposed to be Anole.
Oh, really?
I'm pretty certain. I'm one of the, fandom sites says it's him.
I see.
But, who knows? But Anole is interesting. He's one of those guys that like I like because I've read a couple of stories with him in it. And he is basically he's kind of just like a lizard kid.
Yeah, he kind of reminds me of Beast Boy from...
he looks a little like Beast Boy, but only scales.
Yeah.
He can climb on walls. He has... I think he has a sticky tongue.
Yeah, like Toad.
Like Toad. He's got green scaly skin. I know he can regenerate like a lizard because I'm pretty sure his arm gets chopped off at one point and it comes back bigger.
That's sick.
Which is really cool. Anyway... He's probably most known from a run called Young X-Men that I think only lasted 12 issues in 2008.
Oh my goodness.
Right? But it's a team that I really do like because it's got like Dust and Rockslide in it.
Okay.
So there's a bunch of others.
These are your people.
These are my people. I started reading. I must have just started picking up Young X-Men at one point. It was just like, wow, this is and it's when you just pick up random issues, you don't know how big these characters are. They're just as big as the story lets them be. So I'm like, oh, I love these characters. And now I'm like, oh, they're not big characters. Maybe Dust, but no.
Dust got some highlights in Krakoa.
Yeah. Oh, Blindfold's on the team too.
Blindfold is also
much
huge.
Bigger.
Blindfold is
nowadays.
Legion's girlfriend.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Needless to say, it once again, probably a throwaway character that they had a list of characters they could use because he was created in 2003.
So this is really interesting. I actually do know Anole.
You do?
Yes.
Okay.
Only because
he was in New Mutants.
Yes, he was, and
that was where his introduction is.
Right.
Yeah.
So he's in New Mutants, and he's also he runs a lot with Glob Herman, who runs a lot with Kid Omega.
Yeah.
And so that's how I know Anole. But I did not even know that he was in like Young X. That run and all of those people that he was originally hanging out with, that's over my head quite a bit.
Right. Well, I didn't want to go to a ton, just that he is literally in like maybe 2 shots of this movie.
Yeah.
As I think in the church, he's like hanging on a wall or whatever. Doesn't matter. Anyway, I'd rather talk about Arclight because Arclight's actually in this movie quite a bit. And Arclight is pretty accurate, I would say.
Okay.
Oddly enough, Arclight's powers are shockwaves.
That's a easy power for this movie.
Right? I don't think they're as accurate as the movie depicts them from what I'd read. Arclight's weird, though, because I was like, all right, I'm going to go on a deep dive. And I started looking up a bunch of Arclight and found that she was on the Marauders, like the team that is behind the Mutant Massacre. I'm like, okay, awesome. Then I kept following her, and she just kept being there.
Oh, interesting.
Like
she's never got over.
Right. She never got the spotlight, it felt like.
Okay.
She's always sort of the second in command. Sometimes she gets lines. There was, like, for example, like she's in the Mutant Massacre, and then like probably her next appearance, she is part of an army of women called the Femazons.
Oh, I have heard about this. Yes.
It's like Captain America thing.
Yeah.
She's basically in group shots a bunch and then is semi-highlighted at the end of the arc, but still it just like has a couple of lines, but like no character development whatsoever.
Okay.
And then I was like, all right, I'm going to keep following her. And then it turned out that like, oh, well, she, went up against Nate Gray, an X-Man, and got killed.
Yeah, that's...
But then it turns out that a lot of the Marauders get cloned a lot by Mr. Sinister.
Yes, he maintains all of the clones of the Marauders.
So I was
a thing that he does.
So I was like, oh, she died. Okay, well, let's look at when her next appearance is. And then bring it up, and she's fighting again, and she may have just died again. I don't remember, because it's just like, oh, there she goes again. It's like, okay. She's just always sort of in the background, dying on the Marauders, fighting.
She's kind of a sinister goon.
That's what it really
That's what
became.
it seems like to me. Yeah.
So like, it's this though. If you're going to pick a character to be Magneto's like one of their henchmen, that honestly, not a bad suggestion. Kind of looks like how it's portrayed in the movie.
That is really interesting.
Except for like, it's the weird, like, how Scalp Hunter, who's also part of the Marauders, sort of has like a really metal suit or a robotic body or whatever that's supposed to be. She has a similar thing where it's just like one arm's completely out, but the rest of it's just like a metal suit.
I think at some point, oh my gosh, I'm like blanking because like didn't prep for this today, but there is a point where all of the Marauders become partially cyber.
Yeah.
Because they're working under... I can't think of his name right now, but there is a thing. That is why. I vaguely remember a comic panel where they're all standing in some sort of desert. I think Wolverine is there, maybe. That could be a complete guess, and honestly would be probably on point.
Okay.
But like, I feel like all the Marauders kind of got metal parts at some point. I can't remember.
Their most recent appearance is in the Krakoan era, like very early Krakoan era. It's Hellions #1.
Oh, okay.
So this is the Havoc's team of like misfits.
Right.
And they basically come across zombie versions of these group of Marauders.
Right. Interesting. Zombies. Huh.
Yeah.
Weird. I need to read Hellions. I've avoided it, and I need to go because I feel like there's so much weird. Something went on with Havoc during Krakoa, and like I read some later issues, and I'm like,
what is going on with him?
How did we get here? And I was like, I'll have to read that one day.
Yeah. So that's weird.
Okay.
That's a weird one.
So just zombies, huh?
Yeah.
Is it Sinister's fault again?
Probably, because it's at the Essex State Home for Foundlings.
Well, there we are, I suppose.
There it is. That sounds about right. As of now, I think straight dead.
Yes, I do know, because I looked up her last appearance because I was kind of trying to work backwards because I knew, especially with Krakoa, I was not reading anything that she was in. I do know in Hellions #4, they destroyed all of Sinister's clones of the Marauders.
Okay.
And that, according to Marvel Unlimited, they were put back into the queue.
Okay, sure.
For resurrection. Sure. So it is possible that they were resurrected off comic panel.
Yeah. If anyone shows up past Krakoa, it's a hand wavy, they did get resurrected.
It is such a nice thing for them to be like, we can use anybody. Literally anyone.
Yeah. Oh, did you want to use them? You want to use Arclight? Sure. Here's Arclight.
Yeah, why not? You can't prove that we didn't bring them back.
Right. But yeah, no, that's Arclight. More importantly, is another like Anole, there is a one-shot nonsense shot that like when you're watching, you're like, oh well, that's cool, and that's all there is to it. It's Glob Herman.
Yeah.
So there's a guy who gets hit, and he's got just translucent skin.
Yeah.
Hit by the cure, just turns into a dude. That's it. That's the shot.
It's definitely Glob Herman.
It's 100% Glob Herman. This is one where I was like, I think it was this, watching it for preparation for this, and I was like, holy crap, I think I've seen this shot before, but I didn't have the Glob Herman knowledge behind me that I do now, that I was like, oh crap, that's who that is. 110%.
Yeah. I love Glob Herman, okay? And I did mention this very briefly earlier in this episode because he runs around with Kid Omega, who is one of my favorite mutants now of all time. And let's go back. The one thing they get wrong about it in this is Glob Herman is not just translucent.
Sure. Absolutely.
He is like pink, and they call it waxy material.
They specifically say, so he shows up in New X-Men.
Yes.
Which is also where Quentin Quire's introduced. And they specifically say in one of his first arcs, it's bioparaffin wax.
Yes.
Which I did not know. I've read a bunch of like more current Glob Herman, and I literally thought it was like a squishy skin sack. As gross as that sounds.
They kind of draw it that way,
They
honestly.
do. He's kind of bulbous and you. So he's see-through. So you see his skin and his organs, and his eyes are never like in the skull. They're always floating out. So it looks like a pot of goo.
Yeah, and it does make sense, right? Because it's wax, so his eyes stick out. Like he puts the eyes float up and through the wax on the outside of the
so gross, and I love it.
Because it makes sense, because if his eyes were inside, it'd be hard to see.
Right,
like it tracks, but like it's pretty gross looking.
But it's wax.
Yes.
Which in his like original like first arc, they use a lot.
Yeah.
But after that, not so much.
They do use it in Age of X-Man.
Yeah.
When he gets teleported.
Okay. Because he's mostly like a strong guy.
Yeah.
For the most part, he's used as like muscle.
Yeah. And he is transported through different timelines pretty often.
Sure.
When he gets transported to Age of Apocalypse, all of their powers shift to like that. Their bodies kind of change, and he gets this like giant, even bigger, muscly dude, and like kind of like a metal. He kind of looks like Ghost Rider inside of the wax, which is, and then he's got like, he's a little less kind of blobby and more like bumped up. Like,
oh, okay, I'm looking it up right now.
Fantastic. Yes, I can't describe it to you.
No,
the
but
listeners.
you're right. I think Ghost Rider in a Glob Herman shell, is good,
and it's super cool.
And the reason she's saying that is that like in the New X-Men run, they light him on fire.
Yeah.
A bunch.
He does that a lot,
in
actually.
like 3 issues, they do it like 3 times.
And like send him in to go crazy or whatever.
There's one point he's running full on fire and yells, "I'm the Inhuman Torch."
Yes, it's very funny. I love that.
He's great.
The other time that the wax is important is when in Age of X-Man, so this is the Nate Gray stuff, when they get like a bunch of the mutants get teleported and they live in this kind of like alternate history reality where he's like wiped everybody's minds and they don't realize that like he's changed their history. Basically, they live in a world where they all believe that like everybody's been turned into a mutant, so now there's world peace. Very Nate Gray behavior, to be honest.
Didn't the High Evolutionary wanted to do the same thing?
I think so. Yeah. Anyway, I hope I'm not mixing them up.
Magneto in the first movie.
That's honestly, we should have talked about that.
We were thinking about it. I think if you go back to our first season, we're like, why hasn't anyone done that? Apparently, we have found a few times they've tried doing it.
Glob Herman is one of the only people that does not get his mind wiped, and he doesn't understand why. And we're going to talk about his character, but he is very incompetent.
Yeah, he's a lovable loaf.
He's a lovable loaf. He's a follower.
Oh, he's absolutely a follower.
Easily pushed around.
Easily manipulated.
Yes, he is kind of Toad-like, but in a more charming way and much younger. I
totally agree, because he doesn't feel like he's trying to be a people pleaser.
No, he like tries to do what he like thinks is like kind of the right thing to do sometimes. Yeah. It's really sad. He just wants to be loved, and I think he really struggles in the same way Toad does, in the same way Marrow does, the same way a lot of the mutants that don't pass as human do, about like finding love. That's like a big part of his story, just like Marrow, just like Toad. It's so sad and so lovable and so relatable. But
I realized, quick aside, I realized that pre-New X-Men, the Grant Morrison run, the Morlocks were all the mutants that couldn't pass.
Right.
New X-Men was the first time where, not the first time, but like it was the time where they were like, you know what, we're going to create a bunch of like weird looking mutants that are just allowed to be in the school.
Yeah.
And Glob is definitely one of them.
That they
Beak
put up.
is another one.
Yeah, Beak,
like
yeah.
No Girl's in there.
Love No Girl.
Yeah, there's a bunch of characters
Martha.
Yes,
Yeah.
Martha. There's a bunch of characters that are kind of goofy looking, and I love it. And a lot of them stick around.
Yeah, they're not used as often, especially in Krakoa.
Yeah.
A lot of these did not get used because it wasn't the story they were telling.
No.
But I kind of hope that our new era will bring it.
But we have moved past all non-passing mutants must live in the sewer.
Correct, which I'm really happy about. So in the X-Man era, his mind doesn't get changed because of the wax, and he ends up putting it in over armor because because he tells
the character
her
armor,
the character armor,
not an actual suit of armor.
He ends up telling her, and they like come to an agreement. And there's like thought police because this, of course, Nate Gray, and so like people disappear if they question stuff because like sometimes he'll change things day to day. So not only just their original memories, but Nate Gray will shift things around as they're living there, and like.
Remember we were talking about bigger than Omega level mutants?
Yeah, Nate Gray's up there.
Yeah. That's the nonsense you're talking about.
That's the nonsense I'm talking about. He ends up putting the wax over armor so she remembers her conversation and can't get wiped and can't do whatever, and it's part of it. So just like a little interesting power that I feel like sometimes gets a little forgotten with Glob Herman, because I think a lot of people think of him as just like a sack and not like the wax, but it's part of it. Also has a really horrible backstory that builds up to why he's so pushable and so like kind of just like sad in general. His dad, before he went through his awakening as a mutant, his dad is like a vehement anti-mutant, like human supremacist. And once Glob becomes Glob, he was Robert Herman.
Once the powers activate.
Manifested. Yeah. His dad now has, I think the quote in the issue is that like has a punching bag at hand, so he becomes like violently abused. It's really sad, and it like makes so much sense like when you're watching this character and you're like really cheering for him, but he ends up getting into a bunch of stuff. So he gets away from his dad and he goes to the Xavier Institute. He meets up with Quentin Quire. At this point in time, that's a bad situation.
Well, it's weird. I hadn't read this far yet. That Quentin Quire is not the punk rock bad boy in his very first issue. He's kind of a nerd.
Yeah.
So like Glob being with him is not that big of a deal. You know, that it feels like a big 80s movie where it's like, oh, we're the outcasts among the outcasts.
Yeah, he does like, he has like this very nerdy look, but he does have that. I get why they shifted to a punk rock aesthetic because that is kind of his thing,
well,
right?
They do it in a narrative way.
Yes, absolutely.
But then it's almost like, how was there ever another look for Quentin Quire?
Because he's so nailed in right now. He's so dialed in. He creates...
I'm doing this in defense of Glob, in all fairness, that like I don't blame him.
I don't blame Glob for any of it. I support his rights and his wrongs.
Also, Quentin Quire, they even say like basically subtly manipulates everyone around him to basically agree with him. Okay,
I disagree with that. I know that is an argument.
Yeah, no, that's what the book says, is what I'm saying.
Which one?
In New X-Men.
Sure.
They're during because this is the riots that he causes at X-Men.
Yes, the other
Xavier
thing.
Institute.
Yeah. I've kind of forgot about that because to me that's more empath.
Yeah,
I felt like that was better done with empath. But
I think that. Because this is also like, I think we talked about Kick before, which is the drug
that's right,
puts your powers into overdrive.
Yeah,
I think that on top of whatever he had in him,
that is what it was. That makes sense.
I think they were trying to do that too.
I was thinking about the power set, but no, the Kick especially makes that. I remember now. Okay, I get what you're saying. So basically, Quentin Quire becomes Kid Omega, creates the Omega Gang.
Yeah.
With Glob Herman.
Sure is.
While the school, Xavier's Institute, has like an open day where they're inviting human media and press, they incite a riot. They light Glob on fire. I'm the Inhuman Torch.
It's funny because they light him on fire first and he's just chucking pieces of wax, like fiery wax at everyone. But no, when they try escaping, they get him fully on fire. Yeah. He's yelling that and then literally is just chasing down this van full of humans.
It's very funny.
So they have to have a chase scene.
It's so good.
Chasing him down.
I know. And it's like terrible. Basically,
it's kind of hilarious, but like terrifying at the same time.
He goes to jail for this.
They encase him in cement to get him to stop. I think he just got wrapped up in all the excitement.
He's on kick too.
Yes, he is on
which
kick
is the
too.
drug.
Yeah.
So like that is definitely part of the thing that they're selling.
Yeah.
I hated that. I hated that whole thing.
Well, they didn't know what they were doing with him yet.
I know.
He is definitely someone who has gotten better as time has gone on.
For sure. I also just felt like, since when does the Xavier Institute send their kids to jail for what is effectively not that major of a crime? I actually remember a time when the X-Men let you genocide an entire planet of people, and they were like, you can't go to jail.
If you're a hot redhead, he's a glob person.
This is what the Morlocks are talking about, okay?
No, you're not wrong. You're not wrong.
Anyway.
We brought Magneto how many times into the fold? He was just chasing down a van full of people caught on fire. That's all he was doing.
The point is, it's very funny. It's very silly, but it also, like, we're being facetious here. Obviously, part of the reason they go to jail and they're doing the justice is because the book is doing a anti-drug thing.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah.
Like, it's obvious. I find that kind of, I don't know, heavy-handedness in the X-Men books to be kind of annoying. And
well, because one of the Cuckoos ODs on it.
Yes.
Basically.
Yeah.
Well, she does it to stop Quentin Quire.
Right.
But
and
then kills herself. It kills her in the process.
Right. And then God, I don't even want to go into the Quentin Quire bringing her back to life.
But I'm saying, like, for the drug... The anti-drug message, like it's very there.
It's very significant. Yeah. I do like the fact that when he tries to bring her back to life, she says, "I'd rather be dead than date you." And that was very funny. But
Ooh.
Honestly, so weird things happened in the X-Men at this era.
I love it.
But I will say, Glob has always had this kind of weird rebellious streak that, like, while he may have been influeed by Quentin Quire with Kick or whatever, he is there in San Francisco at the protests.
The Proposition
that
8
we were talking about.
Yeah,
last up, he's there for sure. He's on Utopia when the Sentinels attack.
Mm-hmm. He's a guy who's often in the background. He's a fun background character for sure.
Course, yeah.
And if you need, if you just need someone to protect a bunch of mutants for a panel or two, he's there for you.
For sure. The reason why I love Glob is because he's one of the students at the Jean Grey School after Schism with Wolverine. And so he's in the Wolverine X-Men books, and I love him in those. He is so charming. He betrays them and the school, and he tries to get Quentin to, like, team up with him with the Hellfire Club.
Yeah, this was, if you want to go back to our Toad episode, where they leave the school to start the Hellfire Academy.
Correct, yes.
Where it's like the same thing, but... evil. Glob gets caught up in some excitement. I'm saying
he tries to kill Quentin Quire because he's like apologizing. He's like got his hand on his mouth and he's got Quentin Quire laying down. He's like, he's like, yeah, I'm gonna kill him. And then he's like whispering to Quentin. He's like, look, man, I'm really sorry. I don't want to do this, but, like, they're really scary. And I'm like, I love you so much.
Lovable oaf. Yes. Just saying.
Quentin Quire was fine. Okay,
yeah, he's fine.
Quentin Quire's response was, I'm sorry too. So, like, no worries. He was okay the whole time.
They're best buds.
But, like, he is also one of the students of Spider-Man after Wolverine dies.
Oh.
That's really, really cute. And, like, that's when Spider-Man was investigating, like, who the traitor could be, which I think they were trying to set up as perhaps Blob or perhaps, I can't remember the Shark Girl's name. I'm blanking on her name, but
I think she's literally called Shark Girl.
I think it might just be Shark Girl. Anyway, he's just kind of running around with, like, and they get treated as, like, the rejects. And then also in the Gen X book, Generation X, with Kitty Pryde, when she's running the Xavier Institute in Central Park, he is part of the group, including Quentin Quire, who were the team that needed practical life applications, which Quentin Quire translates to all the other students as losers who will never be X-Men. So we need to figure out how to survive when we get kicked out of here.
Solid.
So I love him. And he's always mixed up in these, like the lovable, like, loser. He's always kind of treated pretty badly. He's had bad grades in school.
He's on the outside of a group of outsiders.
But
he always finds it, but with people, though, not by himself.
Yeah.
He's always with someone.
Yeah. With usually the New Mutant kids, like with that group of kids, with Beak, with armor, especially. He ends up with a lot of them, and he has redeemed himself. There's like a little mini series. I can't remember. I think it's X-Men Green or one of the other ones in Krakoa, where he like he's trying to save Beak and his family because they're not living on Krakoa.
Oh yeah, I think I did read that.
Yeah, and they like there's this dox like web company that like doxes all of the mutants that don't live on them, and they like get like that becomes like a way for to direct people to attack them and harass them in their own homes. And he like goes to the headquarters and like threatens to kill them all. But like
I think it might be New Mutants.
It might just be New Mutant, the newer
but like
Krakoa version.
The Krakoa New Mutants.
Yeah, and that ends with like him talking, to like his friends being like, we deserve to, like, I was an angry person and I need to let that go, but also we deserve to be happy. And it was like kind of a nice completion character moment for him. And I'm kind of curious what they're going to do or what they've done, which I haven't read all the newest stuff, with him moving forward, because it felt like it was a turning point for his character to like really like grow up from being that like kind of kid role where he's like lost. You know what I mean?
Well, I didn't read, there's apparently an Infinity comic that I'm just going to read you the description. At some point, he was kidnapped by Maximilian Frankenstein, one of the Hellfire Club kids, who turned his powers into a gun.
Okay, never mind. They're not going to do anything cool.
That was the last thing they said in Krakoa. Well, there's something about the post-Krakoa stuff, but I haven't read that yet, so I'm not going to read what this says.
I'm going to keep that blank.
I'm going to hand wave that one. Now, the only other thing I read was Dead Man Logan.
Oh,
so,
okay.
Old Man Logan brought into our timeline.
Oh, okay. Yes, I've heard a little bit about this.
He was helping him out. There's like the first arc of the Dead Man Logan run is him. If you remember our Old Man Logan story, Mysterio got Logan to kill all the X-Men. That's how his tragic story begins. So Old Man Logan in the 616 goes, I need to kill Mysterio. And Glob's like keeps calling him from like X-Men headquarters. That's like, can you come back? Can you? Like he's trying to like get him. He's trying to help him, but he's also like he's being the sweetheart, like we were saying. Like he wants to be helpful for Wolverine, but like isn't the one who's going to be getting his hands dirty and also hunting down, because it's also a buddy cop story with Hawkeye, current Hawkeye, not old man Hawkeye.
Got it.
So
that makes sense.
Yeah,
kind of doing a little bit of an Old Man Logan, but like in the 616,
right?
Yeah,
but just hunting down
Mysterio.
At least the first arc. There's more.
Interesting. Do you think that's worth reading for me?
It was interesting.
Okay.
You've got way more to read and other things.
That's true.
I wouldn't.
Not wrong.
I think for you're not a huge Wolverine person. I wouldn't do it.
Fair enough. All right. Sounds good. Well, I think that's it. We've gone a little long, maybe even. So I want to thank everybody for listening. I've been Stasha.
I'm producer James.
And we'll see you for the next time.